It's a quiet August evening in Wisconsin, and a father of three tells his wife he's heading out for a peaceful kayak fishing trip on Green Lake. He kisses his family goodbye, grabs his gear, and drives off into what should have been a routine evening on the water. But Ryan Borgwardt never came home that night, and what started as a missing person case would eventually unravel into one of the most elaborate deception schemes authorities had seen in years. On August 12, 2024, 45-year-old Ryan Borgwardt was reported missing after failing to return from a fishing trip on Green Lake, about an hour north of his home in Watertown, Wisconsin. He is married and a father to high school and grade school-age kids, living what appeared to be a typical suburban life. When Ryan didn't return home that evening, his family grew concerned. The initial fear was that something had gone terribly wrong during his solo kayaking trip. Local authorities immediately launched a search and rescue operation. Dive teams scoured the lake's depths, cadaver dogs worked the shoreline, and volunteers combed the area looking for any sign of the missing father. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no trace of Ryan Borgwardt. The case seemed straightforward but heartbreaking. A tragic accident that had claimed the life of a local family man. His wife and children were left to grapple with the devastating possibility that Ryan had drowned in the lake he'd fished countless times before. But as investigators would soon discover, nothing about this case was straightforward. As the search continued without result, something began to feel off to the experienced investigators at the Green Lake County Sheriff's Office. An exhaustive investigation that involved cadaver dogs, divers, and federal law and speed enforcement was launched, bringing in resources that extended far beyond a typical drowning case. Sheriff Mark Powdall and his team began looking deeper into Ryan's activities leading up to his disappearance. What they found would completely change the direction of their investigation. Evidence began emerging that suggested that this wasn't an accident at all. Digital forensics revealed that Ryan had been doing some very specific research in the months before his disappearance. Borgwardt researched and studied how to successfully disappear, and believed that Green Lake's great depth would mean that a body would not surface. Prosecutors would later reveal in court. As investigators dug deeper, a clearer picture began to emerge. This wasn't a tragic accident. It was an elaborate plan that had been months in the making. The investigation expanded beyond local resources. The investigation involved a number of state and federal agencies, including the FBI and Homeland Security, indicating that authorities suspected this case was far more complex than a simple drowning. In November 2024, nearly 3 months after Ryan's disappearance, authorities made a stunning announcement that would shock the local community and capture national attention. An exhaustive investigation revealed that Borgwardt intended to fake his death and was residing somewhere in Eastern Europe. The truth was more extraordinary than anyone could have imagined. Ryan Borgwardt hadn't drowned in Green Lake. He had staged his own death as part of an elaborate plan to start a new life overseas. Green Lake County Sheriff Mark Powdall said that Ryan Borgwardt began communicating with authorities November 11 after they tracked him down. Through their investigation, authorities had managed to locate Ryan and establish contact with him while he was living abroad.
Good evening, it's Ryan Borgwardt. Today is November 11th. It's approximately 10 a.m. by you guys. I'm in my apartment. I am safe, secure, no problem. Hope this works.
Think about the emotional toll this revelation had on his family. Not only had they spent months grieving what they believed was his death, but they now had to process the fact that he had deliberately deceived them and abandoned his responsibilities as a husband and father. The motivation behind this elaborate deception was deeply personal and heartbreaking for those he left behind. Ryan had left his wife and 3 children to meet a woman in the country of Georgia, someone he had met online and developed a relationship with over the internet. The search efforts that had consumed countless hours and resources, the dive teams that had risked their safety searching the lake's depths, the volunteers who had given their time to help find him, all of it had been based on a lie. Remarkably, the story didn't end with Ryan's discovery in Eastern Europe. Police said he willingly returned to the U.S. After months of living abroad under his fabricated new identity, Ryan made the decision to come back and face the consequences of his actions. In court, Borgwardt was charged with obstructing an officer, and the legal proceedings that followed would bring some measure of closure to this extraordinary case. In January 2025, Ryan appeared before Green Lake County Circuit Court Judge Mark Slate for sentencing. The judge's decision was both practical and symbolic. He was sentenced to 89 days in jail. The amount of time he successfully misled law enforcement about his whereabouts. Borgwardt had already spent 2 days in jail, which he received credit for. He will start to serve the remainder of his sentence 87 days within the next 60 days. Borgwardt, who appeared in a white checkered button-up shirt and gray pants, faced the consequences of his elaborate deception. The sentence sent a clear message that wasting public resources and causing emotional trauma to family and community members through such deception has serious consequences. The Ryan Borgwardt case serves as a stark reminder of how modern technology has both enabled and exposed elaborate deception schemes. His ability to research disappearance methods, communicate internationally, and plan his fake death shows how digital tools can be misused for deceptive purposes. This case also highlights the incredible dedication of law enforcement officers and search and rescue teams who put their lives on the line for what they believed was a genuine emergency. The resources expended, both human and financial, represent a serious cost to the community that was entirely avoidable, but the same technology that enabled his plan also led to his discovery. Digital forensics, international cooperation between law enforcement agencies, and modern investigative techniques ultimately brought the truth to light. The case reminds us that behind every missing person report is a family hoping for answers, and communities that rally together in times of crisis. When that trust is violated through deliberate deception, it affects everyone involved. For Ryan's family, the healing process likely continues long after the legal proceedings concluded. The betrayal of trust, the false grief they experienced, and the public nature of the deception have created wounds that will take time to heal. The story of Ryan Borgwardt is ultimately one of choices and consequences. While we may never fully understand what drove him to abandon his family and stage his own death, we can appreciate the dedication of the law enforcement officers who uncovered the truth and brought some measure of justice to the situation. If this story resonated with you, please consider sharing it with others. Cases like this remind us to stay vigilant in our communities and to support our local law enforcement and search and rescue teams who dedicate themselves to keeping us safe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.